Welcome back to another weekly episode of the ultimate 8-bit computer that we are going to make. This episode, we're going to go over the program counter, and more specifically, we're making a jumpable program counter in this episode. But sadly, I do got to say something first of all, and that is I forgot to flip my camera when I was recording the video. I know this is tragic, so my face will not be in the top left corner of the video, but the audio still worked, so you'll still hear me explain everything going on. Let me know if you like this better. This kind of frees up a little more space in the simulation, so you might be able to see a little bit more stuff, but it's just not as interactive as I kind of like it to be. So that's why I normally do it. But let me know if you like this version. But anyway, we're gonna roll the intro, jump right into the simulation, and we're gonna start this jumpable program counter so we can make this computer actually turning complete and it can run multiple different programs that we want it to run. We are back in the simulation, and now let's go ahead and start making the programmable program counter. So this has a lot of different steps, but it really isn't that complex of a machine. So first things first is we already had this 8-bit multiplexer, but we're going to need to make a single bit multiplexer. So let's go ahead and rename this real quick. I pressed new chip, and that was kind of dumb. And so we're going to call this an 8 multiplexer, and then we're going to make a single multiplexer. Okay, so this is it right here. We have A output goes on, and then when we switch it, B's output's going to go on, and then A is going to be neglected. So this is a single bit multiplexer. Nothing crazy, but it's just going to help condense the circuit down just a little bit more. So we're going to call it, this is going to be our 1 multiplexer. So we're going to save that, create a new chip. So now let's go ahead and make the basics of the program counter. And we're going to use a D flip-flop instead of a JK flip-flop. And I'm going to explain it right now real quick. And that's because a JK flip-flop will work, but J and K have to be on if we want it to alternate, or if we want a certain output, we have to turn either J on or K on and the other one off, which is a little complex. We can just modify our D flip-flop to give us the same result. If we just wanted to flip-flop between the two, JK would be the route, but since we want a jumpable program counter, we're going to use a D flip-flop for this in order to get the result. You definitely could use a JK flip-flop, and maybe the program or the simulation would like that better, but this is the route we're going to go with. So we're going to need 4 inputs. I'm going to call this one mode. This one's going to be data, and this one's going to be call it clock. This is clock 1 and then clock 2. Okay, so I'm going to explain how I want this to work. So when mode is low, I want clock to receive a signal, and every time it receives a signal, we flip the output. If mode is high, I want it to take the data from the D pin, and then I want it to switch it depending on this is low or high when clock 2's signal goes high. So that's why we need a multiplexer for this one right here for clock, and for the mode one too. So mode's going to be our switch signal essentially, and then we're going to need one for the data also. And then we're going to knot the output just like this. So if mode is low and clock goes high, we alternate the output just like this. If mode is high, this clock should not work, and it doesn't. This one should, and it does, and it should save whatever pin that is, and it does. It looks like this works pretty well. So this is going to be our, what should we call this? It's going to be the program counter. I'm going to call it like a single cell for the program counter. So that's what we're going to call this. And now let's make the new chip, the new program counter. So we're going to need 8 of these. Okay, cool. Just like that. Let's make this into of course, a byte. So we're going to take this output like this. And now we need a few inputs. So we're going to need, of course, our 8-bit address input. We're going to need our switch input, whether we want it to switch from the clock to the address. And then this is going to be our clock input, just like this. So we're going to put this at the bottom. And I'm going to wire this up real quick, and hopefully, and then I'll explain it after how I want this really to work. So this should just work like a normal program counter, and it does, where we're just essentially adding 1. And I made I made them orange too, so we can kind of distinguish between the different clock signals. So it looks like this one does work. So now we're going to hook up clock 2. And clock 2 will be red. So still clock 1 is activated because the mode isn't high, and it looks like it still works. So now let's get with the switch mode, or the mode pin. And we're gonna make it blue. So now if the it looks like it works like this. If the mode pin is on, then it works because it's saving 0 from all of these. So this is going pretty well, actually. So go 8 to 1. Okay, so it looks like everything is done. So let's test it out. The clock signal goes up just like that. Okay, let's say we want to go to program, let's put this on. So we're going to go to program 36. We're going to switch it. Ooh, and then once we pulse the clock, it does go to 36. And then we can keep adding from there. But this little switch mechanism isn't really too helpful, it looks like. Let's see if we can fix this real quick. So I don't really like that when the switch goes on, it kind of messes up with everything real quick. That could be a serious bug in the future. So we need a way where the switch, once we turn that on, it either automatically switches or it doesn't necessarily screw everything up at first. And I think we might be able to get away with this with the clock signal. So we're going to attempt to rewire this. If this doesn't work, then you just won't see this part of the video at all. Okay, so this is our solution to our little problem. This took me actually a good, I'd say a solid 6 minutes to figure it out. And all we're going to do is put a little register at the end of the program counter. So let's say we want to go to program 135. So we're going to press save it, then we're going to clock it, and then once it goes from unsaved, we're going to clock it again, and then look at that, we are now at 135 whatever. So essentially it should work now. But now I'm thinking about it, this might not work, because let's say we are at 38 and the signal is high. It will not switch. So we almost need to pulse this for a second in order for this whole thing to work. Oh, this is going to be our solution. So there is going to be a problem in the future, because if we have save and the clock goes high, it doesn't change this output right here. And so this could actually be a little detrimental in our program, especially if we want to change it to a different output, because it does not update it right away. So this might not work, but I do have a solution, and it's going to use a pulse in order for this to be a pulse, or like a one-time clock signal type of thing, and then it should go off. But we will worry about that later. As of right now, this is our jumpable program counter, and it does work, and it works pretty well. So thank you so much for watching. Next week we're going to, I guess, maybe work on the control unit. We're going to fix this problem too, work on the control unit, and we're going to keep progressing with this 8-bit CPU. But as always, all the links that you may find interesting are in the description below. And that's it. Thank you for watching.